gavel and
We can do it again.
you want to replay it?
Okay, so as I was stating, we'll call the meeting to order for the Upson County Board of Commissioners for Tuesday, October the 26th. If you would at this time, please rise. Our invocation followed by our pledge. And I guess you would just bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight asking for your blessings on this community and for this great nation that we love dearly. We ask that you be with us tonight during our discussions and that you keep all those that are near and dear to our hearts that are serving this country safe. These things we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Could you join me in the pledge? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. Pretty light agenda tonight, so you still only get 5 minutes, Mr. Self. So next on the agenda are public comments, and if you would, when I call your name, if you stand, state your name and your address for the record, and remember you have 5 minutes. Mr. Self.
My name is Gary Self. I live at 226 Roberts Loop, and I rise tonight to talk a little bit about the Civic Center and the pickleball court. I know y'all have big things on your agenda to do, to take care of, and this is a small thing. But small things need to be addressed also. It is coming on, winter's coming on, and we have some shortcomings. The court was changed and changed for the worse. And winter's coming on, and some of our people want to go inside, especially when it's raining and when it's cold. And I personally think that the court is not in proper shape for anybody to be playing pickleball on. So what I'm asking you to do is please look into the small things and let those be taken care of also. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Self. Okay, no one else signed up for comments tonight, so with that, we'll move on. Next item on the agenda is our consent agenda. On the consent tonight is the regular meeting minutes for October 12th and acceptance of the September 2021 financials. Is there a motion on the consent?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Jones?
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. Where'd you get the picture on the front of the financial?
From
James?
yes, sir. That's what now is Crystal Spring.
Okay.
I was growing up, it was Purposeville.
Yep. Neat picture. Anybody want to see it? All right. New business tonight. We just have a lot of comments and some things to discuss amongst ourselves that not necessarily on the agenda, but it's stuff that Jason, Jessica, and I and Alan need your thoughts on. So, Jason.
Mr. Chairman, I've got 5 items for an update, and then we want to talk about the work session for next week for potential scheduling conflicts. But in order, the way I've got them, first, just a quick update on the T-SPLOST projects. I spoke with our engineer at EMC as late as this morning. So what's lacking on the project is final striping on some roads and all the punch list items. So there's several punch list items. I don't want to go over them, and I think there's commissioners that may want to add to those. So if you have concerns, please share them with us. So it hasn't been reviewed for final acceptance, and we're not in a warranty period yet. So so just keep that in mind. Final striping is, I think, a few weeks away. There's shoulder work to be done. They have to go back and redo some of the grassing in the right-of-ways from some of the previous projects before he's willing to sign off and send us the pay application. They are in receipt of the final pay application. Obviously, EMC hasn't approved it or reviewed it. There's also some quantities to be reviewed. But, I mean, we're probably at, 97, 98% completion on that project.
I think, and I know I've shared some comments, and I talked to Alex Perry today, and you, but so that we're all on the same page, is there a way that we can collect all our thoughts on all these roads? I mean, it'd probably be a little bit more efficient if we knew, if there was like a preliminary punch list, so that, we're not going back and going on top of each other.
Well, once that is generated in its final capacity by the engineers, I'll circulate it to the board. Would that be acceptable?
Yeah, I just
Okay.
think that they've got some work to do. Some stuff to come back and take a look at.
Do they run overtime? What were they supposed to be done September?
I'd have to go, I'd have to go back and look at the contract to know.
There was some weather
Yeah, I was
related
about to say weather.
extensions that were built into the contract, so I think they're.
Well, some of that wasn't weather related. Some of it was just slow.
Some of it was their equipment and people issues. Yeah. Okay.
I don't want to comment either way, just
I
without
know.
looking, yeah.
Okay. What else you got?
Second, Legislative Council they're in receipt of our resolution and are beginning to work on our local legislation for our homestead exemptions. We've got a follow-up meeting with them on Thursday. So that's moving along, so no reason to think that we won't be meeting or exceeding our deadlines to have that here in the legislative session for next year. We had a really great meeting out at the schoolhouse on Friday, where the Historical Society put on a brief presentation for the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation. They're the ones doing the facility analysis for us. We had a really great turnout. The Historical Society really outdid themselves. They provided the Historic Trust with a lot of information, even shared what some of the operating plans for the building would be, if they were able to, if we were able to renovate it in a way it could be used more efficiently and effectively, have more people visit it. Obviously, we engaged the trust to give us an evaluation and some guidelines, so that was part of their fact-finding mission. So we'll be waiting the next few weeks to get their feedback on that. Two of our commissioners participated in that, which was great, and I greatly appreciate that. Our broadband submission with Wavecom was submitted last night at 7 o'clock. So I just want to say thank you to Commissioner Watson, several members of the staff, and of course the Wavecom staff, and some of the consultants that Wavecom is using. I think it turned out to be a really outstanding submission. I'm going to be working on getting the chairman and the board some talking notes, basically a little half-page elevator speech you can use. So when you're having the discussions with our folks at the state level, you can summarize to them what our needs are, what the project is, what we're asking for, why we think it's competitive. So we'll have that to you. I hope my goal is to have that to you tomorrow. Lastly, I did want to share that the city manager and I, right now the Georgia City County Management Association is having their fall conference in Columbus, and the city manager and I went and taught a class together on functional consolidation. And among other things, I would say that the feedback that we got from a lot of our peers in the audience was maybe that arrangement isn't so bad. In other words, I think it gave me new perspective in a way that I wasn't expecting. And I say that because a lot of folks in the audience were like, wow, there's definitely challenges to what you guys have, but it's so much more evolved than what we have in our community. So I think it gave me a greater appreciation for Thomaston and Upson County of what people were able to achieve before Russell and I ever got here. So it just made me very grateful that you know, although sometimes we find it arduous and difficult to maneuver around, I think that the vast majority of the folks in attendance at that session that we did were, I think, of the opinion that they'd probably rather have that than what they have. So anyway, I felt that that was an interesting reaction, and I thought I would share that with the board. You know, in a room full of city and county managers, I think I was really taken back by some of those comments. So, and then lastly, as I think we alluded to a little earlier today, there are some scheduling conflicts with next Wednesday's work session with a few commissioners, and it might behoove us to try to nail down an alternative date and or time for that.
Yeah.
And that's what our finance director had provided you in advance of that. So what this is the rough draft of all the budget submissions, and we wanted to spend a couple hours with the board going over that, talk a little bit of strategy, and help you understand what's in the numbers.
And I apologize. I mean, you know, the first Wednesday of the month is kind of a hard date for our work sessions, and you know, guys, I hate to tell you, but you got preempted by Miss Allen. So I got to take Miss Allen to it. She's got to have something taken care of, and so I hate to put that on you guys. I mean, this is a very, you know, a lot of work has gone into this document, and we've got a lot of work to do in a very short period of time to get this budget done. So what works for you? I know Tuesday and Wednesday don't work for you. Wednesday morning does not work for me. Jason, you're
Just Thursday afternoon is the only, I can make anything work the Thursday afternoon.
So what works for y'all? I mean, we're open to anything. If you'd rather do it in the evening, you know, we can make that work. Monday,
government roundtable.
yeah.
Monday, Thursday, or Friday.
Tuesday's election day.
You already vote? I have to.
Me too.
I have. Yeah. So, and we can always make accommodations for. So the government roundtable, that's a lunchtime
It's
thing.
always the next week, I mean, first of the week.
The voting date, is that, would that interfere with the, I'm not so sure that the voting date will cause any problem with the.
Us meeting?
Yeah. Okay, you know, it won't for me. I mean, the polls open till 7 o'clock at night. We're not gonna have the work session.
Well, you think about 2 hours, right? That's
I'm
what
just out of
you're.
town all day Tuesday and Wednesday,
Okay.
starting early
It
morning.
may not last 2 hours, but we would like to block off.
It'll last 2 hours.
What about Monday?
Mr. Ellington,
It'll probably
Oh,
last.
so
What about-
anyway, it's bad.
I said it'll last 2 hours. If we
Okay,
met
I
you,
got
it'll last at least 2 hours.
3. Don't matter to me.
Preference?
Monday.
Any date is good for me.
Well, we got that round table Monday, so, okay.
That's a lunchtime thing.
Yeah.
Y'all want to do it Monday evening? What time are you rolling out? Monday night,
Tuesday
Tuesday morning?
Mhm.
Would Monday evening work for,
November 1st.
I mean, we could start it after the roundtable even,
Yep.
2 or 3 o'clock.
That's kind of what I was in
would that work for y'all?
It works for me.
that.
See how easy that was?
Mm-hmm.
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
If, does that also work for finance?
Do it Monday
All right.
about 1:30?
This coming month?
Yeah, once we go around.
I need to sign up yet.
That's why I got hit accept the invitation.
Okay.
I'm fixing
So that would be at Monday at which time?
You just want to call it 2 o'clock?
2 p.m.?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my remarks.
We get consent from Jessica?
She was not. No, yeah, make sure.
Monday ain't good for you?
But it works for everybody else, so roll with it.
You gotta be there. All right. If you you want to just trump us after we leave the room, that's okay.
You want an extra day off instead?
Okay.
Friday.
All right. Mr. English, Mr. English. Hey, Freudian slip. Who knows, right? Who knows?
I don't have anything, Mr. Chairman, other than to say the Murphy property has been purchased by the county and closed on. It's open record, so it's done.
Appreciate it. Okay. And I know that we have shared with Pascal documents, construction documents for the courthouse roof.
Yeah, he's working on that.
I called with Jason listening in, Joe Walters at Precision, and there's been no movement in 2 weeks on their end. So we just got to keep shaking the bushes a little bit.
Well, if you want to change the format, just let him know of what he's including in the letter.
I mean, we're not hearing anything. That bothers me. That SRS or those folks up there aren't calling down here and saying, we hear you, we're having issues, but nobody's saying anything from outside our organization. And I'm not happy with that.
Has Precision reached out to the contractor,
I think
the
they
general contractor?
they've been talking to SRS, but I think they're having some discussions amongst themselves about whether, how hard to push up there. If it would do more harm than good to push, is what Joe just shared with me. So, so we're still working on it. I mean, I had somebody question me today about it. I mean, I hate it for the community. I mean, it should have already been done, but we'll keep working on it. All right. You have anything else?
Nothing.
Okay.
No
All right.
dogs, no brains.
That's all right. That's all right. Mr. Wilder.
I don't have anything. It's the same old thing. Make sure that we
Keep the lights on at EMC.
Keep the lights on at EMC. We need to keep voting.
That's right.
We need to start voting because it's been a very slow light turnout.
The number I heard earlier today was just over 600.
Yeah, there's a.
So, Mr. Jones?
Got a couple things. First, appreciate y'all showing up. Maybe we'll have a bigger crowd next time. YouTube land, glad to see you. The only other thing I want to mention is, we're having trouble getting vehicles from Ford. It's probably from everybody. But I'd like for us to look at what GM's got and what Dodge has got, if they've got a state contract like Ford does, and see what they can get. If they can't, we're not any worse off if we can't get anything. But you might be surprised. The price might be cheaper, it might be higher. We don't know. We've been out Fords all this time, and now it's so hard to get a vehicle. That truck we're waiting on code enforcement ain't gonna be here till when, February? So, they can't get anything. So I think we ought to look. You can't tell them you want an F-150, but just tell them you want a half-ton truck, dress it up like a, equal to equal, and let's see what we can do if they got a state contract. So that's my opinion. It's up to everybody else to.
Well, the reason we were doing Fords was service.
Fleet commonality, it was the only real reason. We've never really done any extensive studies as to, how efficient having, one. It's always been an assumption. We've never done an in-depth analysis about it. But it's historically, it's been just to keep the fleet as common as possible.
Cars and trucks and everything else aren't like they were 30, 40 years ago. They last a whole lot longer. you know, and if we implement this policy of rotating out, you know, you sell them for more than you're paying for them a lot of times. So, it's just my opinion. I'm done.
I'm sure Mr. Salter's taking copious notes. All right. Mr. Ellington?
I don't have anything, Mr. Chairman.
No.
It's been covered, no. We need to vote. If you live in the county, you need to vote. It's not just a city election, it's a Thomaston,
You
Upson
live in
County
Upson
election.
County, the city of Thomaston, and the city of Yatesville. You need to vote. Everybody.
Lost is on the ballot, which impacts everyone.
And if I didn't say it in my little 2-second speech there, tell these people get out and vote. Dave put it on the radio. You know, it ain't just the city elections, it's a county-wide election. You know, people think that, well, you know, we're not voting for anybody because it's all city elections, but it's not. It's a county-wide election. So please get out and vote. November 2nd is the deadline.
Mr. Watson?
Yep, I was excited to see the message about the broadband application. Glad to get that initiated, and I'm hoping we can shake the trees at the state level and push that through, because I think that's going to be a huge win for this county if we can see that project to fruition.
Ms. Jones, we didn't forget about you down there.
I don't have anything.
Okay, all right. Just a couple of tidbits. I shared the landscape plan that EMC gave us with a couple of the folks at the local garden clubs. I've gotten some feedback. Obviously, before we do anything, we'll bring all that feedback to the table and go from there. I really would like to see us, though, if we could get EMC to produce us something to put in the hallway that, you know, people standing around want to look at something. We got something, you know, a little bit large that they can see what they're proposing.
And then if we change it, we'll have to put another one up.
Yeah. It's just it's talking points right now. So we just want to make sure we've got all the input from that we're gonna need. Went to Atlanta the other day, last week, with Ms. Fletcher and Mayor Stylins, and met with folks at Smith, Gambrill, and Russell. They're our bond council. They invited us to come up and talk economic development about 2 months ago. Their Japanese group came down and met with us, and really liked what he heard from us, and invited us to come up. And we met with the Chinese group there, more of the Japanese group, and talked to one of the guys from the German group, and basically just introduced them to Upson County and the Central Georgia Business and Technology Park. And I mean, we got some great feedback and built on that relationship. I mean, I think that was not many people get into that organization and present things like that to them. So that was nice to do. Sproul Bluff Park, Jason said we didn't talk about the attendance at the Spooky Trail, but a lot of work went into that, and the final number was
940.
940 people
Over
in
2
nights.
Mm-hmm.
Great job, if you're listening, to our volunteers that came up and staff that stepped up and made it happen. It's the 3rd year, and it sounds like it continues to grow, even though we took last year off. And it sounds like there are more people wanting to step up next year and get involved. So who knows? But
the pre-registration was a big hit, so people were able to go on our website and pre-register for it, and that really helped speed people through the process once they got on site. So that kudos to the staff for streamlining that. I think a good solid, like close to 200 people took advantage of that. So.
kind of like having a speed line at Disney, right to the front of the line.
And you also got a discount if you did that.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about rec program, and and I don't think it hurts to tell everybody that, but, we had a conversation, we're waiting on a comprehensive plan for the Civic Center building and the grounds. And, Jason, I'm going to spill the beans a little bit here. I mean, he told me the other day that folks have gone out and just a preliminary look at what it would take to take care. We've got a big drainage issue at the fields over there, and rather than stealing all your thunder, why don't you just tell them what you were kind of told tentatively?
Essentially, some of the contractors we worked with in the past, we asked them to look at it just from spec and scope, and they were kind enough to give us some feedback. And the general consensus or feedback we got when it came to regrading and redoing the fields was that they really recommend that we have an engineer completely redesign the entire facility. They were saying that we could go regrade and redo each individual field, but it wouldn't solve the runoff issue and the drainage issue. So their recommendation is to get it completely re-engineered and to when we renovate them to bid it out as one complete rehab.
That on the exterior, but
yeah, that we're talking about this field. Yeah.
That and I suspect that's going to significantly impact the budget for the Civic Center at whole. And I know there was a pretty robust plan for renovations inside the building. So I mentioned that so that we can start thinking about priority. Ball fields inside. Anyway, we got to have that discussion. And I'd be interested to hear what obviously our staff has to say about prioritization of projects with the limited budget that we have over there. I mean,
I think the priority that came out of the joint projects meeting was definitely that the fields were the priority. So.
I mean, those fields are wet constantly. I mean, they take a lot of water. Jessica can attest to that. Ben can attest to that. Y'all are out there.
A lot of canceled games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't need that. I mean, there's obviously some things that we've got to do to the building to true up the roof system to stop the water from getting in, and then there's some other things, and we need, and Mr. Self, we hear you. So we just got to categorize everything, prioritize, and get going on it. So I suspect that if we decide to go that route, I don't want anybody waiting on the board. I don't think any of us want anybody waiting on us. It's kind of, don't wait on us. Get us something, and let's move forward. So, and I think that was it for me. Any other by the ways?
Yeah, let me ask you a question. Speaking of the roof at the Civic Center, we discussed that a couple times. It's still, we ain't done anything? Why not?
Well, we've had people look at it, so we're getting quotes for it, then trying to decide if it's something that we need to engineer and spec, or if it's something that we can just quote and let. But yes, we've had 2 different firms look at it.
Not gonna do anything but get worse.
Got it. Kind of the reason I mentioned it. I mean, and I know Jason is updating the dashboard, that document that we use, and he'll have that for us in the very near future. And there's a lot of things going on. I think Jason is like 27 active, 27,
33
active projects.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot going on. Our code enforcement guys, I've seen differences in some of the areas that were eyesores. There's still work to do. We talked about that. Take a look at iWorks. We discussed today maybe a minor change to the iWorks system that might help us when we look at things to know where we're at. But they're putting the information in there. the thing that, you know, I know that frustrates us is the amount of time it takes to get things, get action. But it's that 30-day warning, try to work with them.
In that software, is there available, is the way that they can have a follow-up, or they can put follow-up date in there if they're gonna give somebody 30 days, or they're gonna give somebody 2 weeks, so that automatically pops back up, so that they know, hey, you know, because if you're out here going, it's difficult to remember all the complaints that you get to follow back up on them, and I think that's probably one of our biggest issues is when we submit a complaint, and then we're looking, you know, they've got 20 more complaints. Well, they did go out and talk to the person. They told them it was going back 30 days, but somebody else has called in complaints that they're just continuously chasing to some way circle back around and follow up on.
Almost like a work order system, like where.
Well, just to, you know, as a reminder. I mean, you know, I know a lot of sales systems have that type of stuff.
Box you check.
Right. Say, hey, follow up 30 days. Well, it pops back up on their calendar. Say, things to complete. You follow back up on it, and they can put completed. You know, follow back up. You know, issue citation. It'll keep them getting a lot of phone calls from me. You know, because if somebody calls in a complaint and I forward that complaint to those guys, I really don't like getting a call back from the citizen and they go, hey, look, you know, I called you about this, you ain't done anything. I need to, I can look right at it and go, well, this is what we did. And
I mean, they're putting good information in there, but I agree with you, is if there's a way to make it easier for them and for us to say, okay, you know, if I know that, you know, 105 Quigley Lane, they came out on September 5th, you know, what's the follow-up date? It keys them to go back out. With 2 guys working every day, so I mentioned Jason earlier, that there ought to be something in that system every day.
Oh, absolutely.
Something in that system, because that documents what they're doing. And we're all on the same page when we can pull that up. It's a great system. We could just tweak it a little bit.
I'm gonna ask something, and it may be in there, but I haven't found it yet. Is there a way to populate a map?
Yes.
Yes, it's in there, or
You
yes,
can do it. You can run a report. I think you can print out a report. That's, yeah, like we'll pinpoint them on the map.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we can.
Yeah.
You know, and one last thing about code enforcement, and Jason, I didn't talk to you about this earlier, but I hate to surprise you with this, but I'm going to anyway. If you know, I get it if it's a situation that they need to work on, say it's care apprentice or something like that. But if it's operating, say like operating a business without a permit, without a business license, why is there a grace period on that? Is our ordinance?
I think so. Yeah. So we give them 30 days to comply once we give them a notice of violation. So our ordinance starts with a notice of violation and then a citation.
To everything from care apprentice to operating a business without a license to, okay. Maybe something after we knock out about some of the
I was telling the chairman that in the session before the one that the city manager and I taught, we actually were caught that the second half of a code enforcement session that was being taught by the city manager of Lawrenceville, and they actually have gone and changed their code section to say that if you've had a previous violation, it's an immediate citation.
So you don't give them a 30-day grace.
Right.
How soon can we have that ready? I mean, really. I mean, we've got a lot of those. No, I wouldn't say a lot. We've got some habitual violators.
There's no incentive there to change it if you understand
They know the system. They go through the 30 days. They get a citation. When they go through the gyration to get into magistrate court, it gets adjudicated eventually, and then we're back out there the next day. So, and you got to go through the whole process again. It's just
repeat, and honestly, it seems like the same areas, the same people over and over.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, just for the board and for anyone that may be listening, if it looks bad, it's probably a violation.
Report.
It's just, I think slowly the word's getting out that we're getting a lot tougher on this, but it's not happening fast enough. I mean, if there are junk cars laying around, it's a violation. I mean, if your grass is this tall, it's a violation. If you don't have utilities in your house, that's a violation. That's a condemnable property. And I don't know, maybe we could get some help from the press saying that would
Clean up your act.
Take it upon yourself.
We're getting impatient. Clean up your act. Your neighbors want you to clean up your act. And we're not just commissioners, we're your neighbors too, so do your part.
And the last thing I'll share is that it's a percentage of the total complaints actually generated by the county commissioner, very small. So I think more and more, I think people are realizing, I think one of the things that is helping is that people are realizing that we're actually visiting these sites and making citations. So that's helped in a way because it's generating.
Well, I think
it's
one reason
generating more complaints.
one reason you don't get as many complaints from the board, and so speaking for myself, is I'm trusting the system. That's what we've made it a priority. We've invested in the office, invested in 2 officers, and I'm happy to do it, but I shouldn't be the one riding the roads, finding the trash on the side of the road that somebody set out 2 weeks ago. I trust that somebody else has already reported it first time, but second time, then and I think you guys are doing the same thing. We know that we've invested in letting the system work. We just want to make the system better. And the other thing too is, as much as it frustrates us, I'm sure it frustrates them to have to repetitively go back and deal with some of the same offenders. And I'm sure it doesn't help the relationship part either. That here they are again. So, but anyway, I'm sure I speak for everybody. We appreciate what those guys are doing. They seem to have the right personalities for it.
And they're catching on fast. And keep in mind, they are only just a couple of months on the job.
Okay.
It wasn't too long ago when we didn't have any code enforcement.
Okay. All right. Final thoughts?
And you're gonna try to schedule something, redistricting at the Capitol.
I absolutely hope you can get
Yeah.
that done.
We'll, and like I said, so when we get the feedback from them, if they can give me a date, either if 2 commissioners want to go or whatever, we'll go up there. And it sounds like, but the sooner the better, because the longer we wait, the more the heavier the traffic's going to be.
It's going to get backlogged.
Yeah, we want to get it knocked out. So some minor tweaking for us, and I'm sure we can get knocked out. So, all right. Final thoughts? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Adjourn. Thank y'all. All right, we're still live.
First maybe.
It'll be here.
Oh, it's gonna be here?
Just go in and electronically sign it, that's your signature card.
Yeah, I just signed it. About 50 places to sign. It is.
I mean, we need to
All you gotta
seriously
do
talk
is
about cutting all this.
select it, and then just keep on.
These are the same people who never gave me a shirt. They want me to give them something.
It's Thursday.
I wear mine every
So that was the only time they had, so I was like, I'm bowing.
I haven't looked at it yet.
They said they can't, I don't remember what they.